Hey there, my friends, and welcome into another episode of the Subscription Web Design Podcast. Hey, in this one, we're going to talk about something very transparent. Everybody loves to talk about their successes that they've had. But, in my experience, there are many more lessons in failure. The more you fail, the more you learn what doesn't work. And I know I don't need to repeat all the old adages about Edison and the light bulb and all these other things. You know what I'm talking about. The more you fall, the more you fail, the more you realize what doesn't work so that you can do the things that do work. And that's what I love about just the process of business. I talk a lot about the process, and sometimes you just have to go through the process in order to see the result. You can't learn everything from a book or from a course. And books are great. I read them extensively. Courses are great. I take them extensively. However, there's many more lessons in doing the thing and failing. Okay. And let me give you what a few of those are for me. Some of the ones that I've learned so that maybe you don't have to. And I tried to be selective with these and also specific with these. Okay. Selective in the sense that they are ones that I think really matter. Out of all the mistakes I've made, I think these top three are ones that by listening to them and understanding them, you could apply them in your own business and not fall into the same traps that I did and mistakes that I did. And they're specific because, again, I want you to be able to actually apply them and apply them to your business without having to think too much about, strange, broad application. Okay. So I want to make this work for you and be specific as I can. The thing that I'll implore you to do as you're going throughout your own processes is just to take inventory of your mistakes and think through them every once in a while. Maybe even use journaling, either a digital journal or a physical journal. I like to use Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Journal, and just get your thoughts out on paper, what you're thinking. That way you can see what you're thinking. And when your subconscious is thinking something, but your conscious mind is not aware that your subconscious is thinking of it, that leads to depression. It can lead to burnout. It can lead to lots of problems because your subconscious will tell you stories that are not true. Okay. And when you see them on paper, I'm telling you, this is real. You should try it. When you get your thoughts out written down on paper and you say, oh my goodness, am I really thinking this? And you compare them with the reality, you'll find that a lot of times your subconscious is telling you stories. Okay. So you need to get out of that stuff. Okay. So here are the mistakes that I have made. And hopefully these are ones that will help you think through your own life and business, but make sure to record your own through journaling or some other sort of process. Okay. Here's the first one. Again, these are ultra specific. Not spreading my income across more accounts faster. All right, let me repeat that again and then I'll explain. Not spreading my income across more accounts faster. I talk about the fact that when I first went full time in my business, I had to use what I call a foundation client, a white label relationship, in order to get on our feet. Okay, to get to a place where the business itself actually could sustain my family's lifestyle and income, and that's totally fine. I don't see any problem with that at all. But what's going to happen is that if you do that and you don't right that ship pretty quickly, you're going to have your business primarily making a good chunk of its income from a larger vendor, right? From one larger client. And I'm being fully transparent. We still in our business have one vendor, one client who makes up more of our income than I am very comfortable with them doing, right? And so I'm trying to right that ship now with eyes wide open and awareness of it. But I wished that in those early days, I had really established a solid plan for marketing and client onboarding. I just have to be honest, I got a little comfortable in those early days with the work that came in. And when that white label work started to die down a little bit, things got tighter, a lot tighter. Okay. And it was very uncomfortable for quite a while. Now, fortunately, in the time since me and that white label provider have ceased working together, at least on the regular basis that we used to, we have taken on a lot more individual clients and spread our risk across a larger base of clients, which is fantastic. I'm super grateful for that and glad for that. But we still need to ramp that up even more in our business. And so again, I want you to, if you're going to do the subscription web design thing, which it works, it's fantastic. I wouldn't be on this podcast talking about it if I didn't think it worked. It's the best thing. But make sure that you are making room in your schedule and doing your marketing activities to onboard enough clients to be able to spread that risk. And then eventually you can slow down your efforts. And if you just onboard a client every few months, you're going to be just fine. Okay. You can slow that down. That's what's so beautiful about subscription web design is you don't have to hustle to burn off that client conveyor belt. But I do wish in those early days that I had focused a little bit more on marketing to get a more solid base of clients who are paying relatively similar amounts. Obviously, if a client who is paying 4 figures leaves, that hurts more than a client who is than a bunch of clients paying 3 figures if one of those 3-figure client leaves. Okay, so just make sure that you're spreading your risk across more accounts and work to do that as quickly as possible when you're building up this kind of business. Okay, the second mistake that I hope I can help you avoid is not staying consistent using the profit first method. Okay. So these things are all a little bit related. So I'll just tell you the story here is after that first client, that white label client, after that started to die down, and a little bit before that too, one of the things I got myself into trouble with, and I didn't put this in the mistakes because I think these 3 were more important, even though I could have here, on this other one, is I got in trouble with one client that I was doing because I didn't have the contract as shored up as I needed to. And I've told y'all this story actually on a different episode. I forget where. But in short, the idea was there was a simple misunderstanding. I used the word unlimited in my wording, speaking with this client in a completely different context than the original site build that was going to be done. But that was the way it was taken, and I didn't have contract to back up my uses of the language. And so in short, we worked on a project for a very long time that we should not have. And I just barely made a profit on that project. And it was unfortunate because it was a client who I really enjoyed working with. We had a great working relationship, but it just didn't work out. And there's a ton of lessons to draw from that itself. But during that time, the white label work was dying down. The work with this client was taking up a lot of my resources. And what I found is that I was, in my own business, I was using too much money from other clients that was coming in to help pay for another client who was taking up all of my resources. And that problem had been not necessarily hiding, but it was sort of easy, I guess subconsciously or whatever, to sort of sweep under the rug and not think about, because the money was fine coming in from these other sources. And so, I remember especially one month in particular where it was looking pretty much like the emperor had no clothes, and it was like really a tough period. And I had to scale down dramatically on my team. It was really, really uncomfortable. And there's a lot of lessons in that, of course, but the biggest problem that I think if I had just done this one thing, it would have been so clear to me that I would have had to fix the problem a lot sooner than I did, would be if I had kept doing profit first consistently. And the reason that I didn't was because, again, like I had stopped doing it because we had a period of time where I needed to scale down my personal income to pay for the project work that was actually being done. But then I never got back on the ship until probably the last, I don't know, I want to say 3 months or so. Okay. And so I would have just never stopped doing that. I would have kept profit first going. I should have fixed the problem immediately when I saw it instead of adjusting the numbers to make it work. And going forward, that's what I always plan to do. But if you can do profit first and do it consistently, then it will just solve so many of the numbers problems that you're going to have in your business because you're a business owner. And they happen. But that framework will show you really quick where your deficiencies are. If you're not familiar with Profit First, read the book, Profit First. It's fantastic. But you can go look up on YouTube, and there's tons of stuff talking about the Profit First method. I highly recommend using Relay, which is a bank account or a banking system, I should say, that works really well with Profit First. It's actually the official bank of Profit First, and I think it's relayfi.com, relayfi.com, and go check that out, and you can essentially auto-transfer money that comes into your bank account into separate bank accounts that work alongside the Profit First method. And so I want to highly encourage you to explore that for your business. Start doing it from the moment you hear this podcast, and then never stop doing it. And I think that will be something that truly helps you. All right. And then number 3, the third biggest mistake that I have made in doing the subscription web design business is not having an actual plan for marketing. Again, until pretty recently. I was doing, and this is despite the fact that I have actually been a huge marketing nerd for the past few years. What I have always had trouble with is seeing how a lot of the marketing advice that I was reading would apply very well in web design. And in fact, one of the conclusions that I've came to, and there's a lot more I could say on this, but one of the conclusions that I've came to is that web design and certain other businesses like it, you do have to sort of market differently than some of the clients that you are going to be working for. So a lot of the strategies that you learn that are marketing strategies are things that are going to work for your clients. But if you try to do them for yourself, they might not work as well. And we could talk a whole specific episode about that. But there are things that will work. And some of them are a little bit more manual. Some of them are a little bit more about relationship building. And those are things that I'm going to be covering on a separate episode entirely of this podcast. Okay, we're gonna devote a whole episode to this new marketing plan that I have put together for our businesses that we are putting out and starting to implement on literally as we speak. But until I started to think this way and do this and make these changes, we were doing what the author Alan Dibb calls random acts of marketing, right? An occasional social media post here, an occasional conversation with a client that led to a referral here, an occasional blog post there, or just whatever. And those random acts of marketing really don't work well. You need to have a consistent, structured plan that you execute on the regular basis. If you have a team, you need to get your team involved. You need a plan for marketing and onboarding so that you can get consistent clients coming in the door. And again, for me and my web design business, that's honestly, and I've talked about this before transparently, but that's honestly been a hard thing for me to figure out and crack the code on in our agency. And a lot of agency owners you talk to, it's going to be the same thing because they are used to and accustomed to getting most of their business from referrals, okay? And it's not that we don't get referrals, we absolutely do. But we haven't been doing some of the things that would lead to those referrals. And we haven't been doing some of the other things that would bring new awareness to the business. And we're working on implementing those things now. And I am excited to share with you a little bit more about that. But don't make the mistake of failing to put together an actual plan for marketing. You must do this. You must figure this out. One thing, if you're listening to this, because it's going to be a little while before the episode on marketing comes out, read the book Lean Marketing by Alan Dibb. It's one of the books that I'm going to start recommending a lot now. And it's going to be up in there in that category with the next podcast episode. We're actually going to talk through some of the insights that I learned from another book that I always recommend called The E-Myth Revisited. So a little spoiler alert for you there to get you excited about it. But that book, Lean Marketing, I'm going to put it kind of up in that same category. It's a must read as a business owner. And I think if you read that, internalize everything it says, you'll be able to put together a marketing plan that works for your business, for your niche, and something that will finally lead to being able to consistently bring in those new clients to help with the first mistake I talked about, spreading your income faster across multiple different accounts, okay? I hope those mistakes have been helpful and instructive for you. Now that I've told you about them, you don't have to make them if you don't want to. You can intentionally design your business to avoid them, okay? And I would suggest that you do that. Hope you guys take care, and we'll catch you in the next episode.